Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. I'm going to do some reflection today on my path through the effective coaching program. And I have to thank our word master today for giving me absolutely the perfect word to phrase my introduction today. Because the word reflecting is one of those equivocal words. It has two meanings. On one hand, it means to create an exact but reversed image of, as a reflection in a mirror. On the other hand, it means to think back over and examine a series of events or a series of thoughts or any real-time event that lies in the past. And so to think about my path in Toastmasters, in pathways, we have to look back at how I originally got into Toastmasters and what the educational path looked like before the advent of the pathways system. When I started going to Toastmaster meetings, it was June of 2003. I found a flyer in the lunchroom where I worked about a brand new Toastmaster club that was opening at another county building around the corner and down the street. And I thought to myself, well, I had a close encounter with Toastmasters in the 90s when I belonged to the Santa Clara Square Dance Callers Association. I was a program chair for 1 year, and I thought about getting in touch with Toastmasters to get somebody to come down and talk about being an MC. But for whatever reason, this was before the advent of the internet, I never managed to make contact with Toastmasters. Otherwise, I might have been involved with them quite a bit earlier than I actually was. But I looked at that and I said, well, here's a new Toastmaster club. Maybe my experience as a square dance caller and being an MC, maybe I've got something of value to offer to this club. And so right from the start, I was involved in contributing and helping to raise the educational level of the other people that were involved in the group. It was a natural focus for me. I've been teaching square dancing for 35 years. I was involved at the job that I had at Spreckles as a chemist, as a shift chemist. I was involved in training other people on the different stations in the lab. And I even did a little bit of teaching when I was in college. I taught high school chemistry my senior year in high school during a 3-week teacher's strike in New York City. So I have been teaching, I have been offering my intellect and my experience. It's part of my nature. So we got to the Toastmaster educational program, which consisted of competent communicator, advanced communicator bronze, advanced communicator silver. There were manuals. Once you got past the first one, there were 15 advanced manuals. And over the years, in the 2 Distinguished Toastmasters awards that I've earned so far, I completed 11 of the 15 advanced manuals. I cheated on the second time around and I redid one of the ones from the first time. It wasn't really cheating, but it was just maybe not pushing myself as far as I could have. But none of the other advanced manuals really interested me in the slightest. So I skipped those and redid one of them. The first DTM took me from 2003 to 2010. I was awarded that, as a matter of fact, at the spring conference or fall conference that we hosted here in Monterey, the notorious Pirate Conference. Then it took me from 2010 to 2019 to get my second Distinguished Toastmaster. And that was mostly a matter of timing and not picking myself up and getting through the last few things that I needed, the projects that I needed to get done. And then all of a sudden, around 2018, 2019, everything's thrown out the window and replaced with the Pathways system. Pathways came on, it was universally despised. People hated it because, true to form, Toastmasters International, which had, I can't say they had a love affair, they basically had a real stumbling block with anything having to do with the internet. For whatever reason, they just had a crop of not very good internet programmers, website programmers, and their history is just not really good when it comes to the internet. And the Pathways was a disaster. You had to, they expected you to disable your pop-up blocker. No, that's not going to happen. That's a security violation. Over the next few years, they addressed some of the most egregious errors, and it got to be a little better. When we started, there were 10 paths you could select from. So I took their little whoopee evaluation thing that would reveal my propensities and suggest a path to me. And so, as one would expect, it suggested the effective coaching path right up front. They didn't tell us at the outset that if we belonged to more than one club, that we were entitled to 2 free pathways, 2 free paths. It took them almost a year to think to notify us of that. So right off the bat, I bought 2 paths, started working both of them. So about a year later, they said, oh, you have a free path coming. So I went and picked out another one. And then about a year later, they said, we're giving you a gift. We're giving you another free path. So I've got, as it turns out, I've got 5 paths to my credit. I've only been working on 2 of them primarily. The first level, or 2 levels, were all identical. There were, by the time you got to level 2, there were maybe 4 different paths, 4 different projects, and you had to do 2 or 3 of those 4, depending on which path you were in. It varied, but those 4 selections were all the same for all 10 paths. Eventually, they added an 11th path. And rather than work all the way through one path, get to level 5, and then go back and work the other path and go back to the beginning and all like that, I elected to work both paths simultaneously. So I was doing a lot of repeat projects, but by the same token, it allowed me to take a particular project that if I didn't feel like I did my best at that one, well, I could just go over to the other path and repeat the same project with a different speech. Of course, it would have been not kosher to use the same speech on both paths, but different subject matter, but the same type of project, and do a better job than I did the first time around. And so I gradually worked my way up through effective coaching, and I finally selected as my other one, the one that was most likely, at least it was alleged to be most like the original education, which was presentation mastery. It also took them about 8 months or a year for that information to be disseminated, that one most closely resembled the original educational system. So I managed to get all the way up to level 4 and 5 on the 2 paths. And one of the things that I most liked about the effective coaching path is that it emphasized what has always been my major desire, which was to help other people. I have been a club mentor twice. I have shied away from being a club coach. I may not be able to get away with that given what I face now for the things that we'll need once you complete your 2 paths up through level 5. Then there's a whole bunch of other stuff you have to do. It was 2 years after the advent of Pathways before I even saw a list of what those things are. They didn't make it easy to find. it's, even now, after 4 years on pathways, they still don't send that to you until you have actually completed level 5 on your first pathway. So once I complete this speech, I expect to be able to get that list formally from Toastmasters, but. So now I've got a whole lot of other things that I'll be involved in, what they call the DTM project. Used to be you could either choose club mentor, club coach, or club sponsor. Now you have to do both mentor and coach, or mentor and run a speechcraft program. And there's a nice seminar happening tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock on Zoom, put on by the district, specifically on how to run a speechcraft. So I will be sitting on that just before I join the all hands on deck meeting. So I've still got a lot of work left to do, but that'll mean from approximately 2019 to maybe 2023, 24. So my first DTM took me 7 years. Second one took me another 9 years. This one I may have condensed down to about 5. All in all, I say it's been an absolutely fabulous trip. I'm looking forward to the max, to where it goes from here. Madam Toastmaster.